SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Toyota Brookhaven services all makes and models. That could be why we were voted best service department the past 2 years. Come see why. Exit 40 Brookhaven or online at ToyotaBrookhaven.com. Great service, great savings. At Toyota Brookhaven, we deliver.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
What's going on? Good Tuesday morning. Welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for starting your day with us. Hope the coffee's good this morning. Pleasant outside. Not quite as warm as it was yesterday, but all in all going to be a pretty good day weather-wise in the state of Mississippi. Alongside Lance Talbert, I'm Richard Cross. Glad to be with you. Love to hear from you this morning. C Spire text line is wide open. C Spire text line never sleeps. 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. C Spire, inspired by you. Good morning, Lance.
Good morning. Yeah, it was kind of a spring scorcher yesterday.
It was great.
Yeah, I loved it. It was a little warmer down here. I think it was up in the hill country, up there where you guys are. Y'all don't get the humidity, man. I was brow sweating all day, man. Well, you get it, but I mean,
North Mississippi doesn't get humidity?
No,
oh, really?
It's like a whole other country up there. You know?
Really?
Perfect weather year-round, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what I heard.
It's a good spot.
Yeah, but no, it was a beautiful day, man. The bird dog, he wore himself out. Just absolutely has to get everything, and we were up to, the wee hours of the evening and or the morning probably, and he was just bird dogging, man, fetching. As soon as he went into bed, laid down, fell asleep, and I had to roll him over this morning. I thought he was dead. I was like, "Are you okay, man?"
He's like, "No, I had a big day yesterday.
I had a big day, Daddy.
Leave me alone. I'm gonna sleep a little while longer. You got to get up. I don't have to."
Yeah, I love it. He'll look at me with that one eye open. He's like, "No, I'm gonna hang out here for a bit longer." All right, good,
not
buddy.
time.
Good. Yeah.
Oxford today, some clouds this morning. Going to give way to mainly sunny skies in the afternoon. High today around 70, so probably 12, 14 degrees cooler than it was yesterday for a high temperature. Winds out of the north-northwest. That might be the reason why. 10 to 15 miles an hour tonight. Clear, low of 42. Winds light. In Winona, you got a few sprinkles possible early this morning, and some clouds are going to give way to sunny skies this afternoon. High 72, the wind out of the north at 10. Prentice, Mississippi, you got a few sprinkles perhaps early as well. You're going to get up to 78, though, today. And how about in Biloxi? Cloudy skies early, going to become partly cloudy, which means, if you're more of a glass half full kind of person, partly sunny. High of 79. Coastal Mississippi, winds out of the north-northwest, 10 to 15 miles an hour. That wind switches around all the time. I mean, flip a coin.
Yeah.
They blow it out of the south, helping those balls to the outfielders, and coming out of the north and keeping them in the park.
Man, I was at a junior high ball game yesterday, and the wind was just swirling. It felt great because the sun was, cooking you a little bit. But it would have taken a man to get one out of a park, any park yesterday with the wind blowing in. Then it would swirl to the left, then swirl to the right, and then come straight in, but never out. It was not going to be in a bomb day yesterday.
On this day in 1452, Italian painter, sculptor, scientist, and visionary was born in Vinci in Florence, Italy. His name, Leonardo da Vinci. Pretty talented guy.
Yeah, he created a few cool things.
He did.
The flying screw or whatever it was called, the helicopter, the original. He came up with that one a long time ago.
Yeah, smart guy.
Yeah.
A couple of political birthdays today. Nikita Khrushchev, do you remember that? First secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, born in Russia.
Yeah, he's over there somewhere.
Kalinovka? Kalinovka? not sure of the pronunciation on that. I may have bungled that this morning. He was the premier of the Soviet Union when we had the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
JFK dealing with Nikita Khrushchev on that.
Had the back channels, too.
1912, Kim Il-sung was born. He was the founder, dictator, and supreme leader of North Korea. Served in that role from 1948 until 1994. He was born in Japanese Korea. It has been a family affair in North Korea since 1948. He's the father of Kim Jong-il and the grandfather of the current supreme leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, who is a great golfer, remember?
Yeah.
Shot like 23 on 18 holes.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good day for him.
They wear really cool, like the leaders over there. They have those, like, I wonder if they hand down their jackets. It seems like they like wear the same jacket, you know. It's got that no collar thing, and they're all a little portly. Everybody else over there starves a little bit. The leaders, well, they look healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, he was. I'm not sure the people are well fed, but the supreme leader is pretty well fed. How about this? On this day in 1933, Roy Clark was born. American country and bluegrass singer, guitarist, and banjo player. Perhaps you know him from Hee-Haw.
I love Roy Clark, man. I mean, if you ever just want to be amazed at a guitarist, just turn on any song he ever did and just watch his hands work while he's sitting there smiling at you.
Picking and grinning.
Yeah, picking and grinning, man. It's like just walking around enjoying himself. But one of the best guitarists that nobody in the modern era really seems to credit much, but he is amazing. Amazing.
He was a regular on The Tonight Show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super likable guy, too. Just kind of like a normal dude.
And I think Saturday nights of my youth, especially at my grandmother's house, Hee-Haw.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a little bit of a break, and then shortly thereafter, the Lawrence Welk Show. If there was something coming on Saturday night that you really wanted to watch, that wasn't Hee-Haw or Lawrence Welk,
you better put in an order.
Yeah, or find somewhere else.
When there's only one
that's
TV.
That's what was on television.
Yeah, the old days. I'm a little older than you, but we had, the old TVs only had like 4 channels. So,
yeah.
What was on those? That's what you watched. So,
well, and then my grandparents had the antenna with the antenna that was attached to the little. I guess this was advanced technology at the time because you would rotate the antenna.
Yeah.
To get it into a spot where it would pick up the signal well. Sometimes it'd be fuzzy, sometimes it'd be clear. So I've heard people say in the past, you actually had to manually rotate the antenna. Mm-hmm. They had the electric rotator.
Oh, wow.
So it was this square box, and it had a round dial on the front of it, and you would click it like 1 degree at a time, and then you would hear that, and it would like move the antenna into the right spot.
I remember being the antenna, holding the antenna with the rabbit ears and the tinfoil wrapped around it to get it taller.
That's right.
And move it around. Oh, all right, there it is. Don't move. And back then, you were also the remote control for your parents. So,
mm-hmm.
No doubt. No doubt. You'd have to sit 4 feet in front of the TV.
They were like,
put it on 40.
TV.
Yeah, the old console TV. It's like it was a liquor cabinet, but no, it was actually a TV. Yeah. Those things. And it took a forklift to move them.
Chris Stapleton, born this day in 1978, American CMA and Grammy Award-winning country and bluegrass singer, songwriter. Songs like Broken Halos and You Should Probably Leave. He was with the Steel Drivers from 2008 till 2010 until he broke out on his own. I would say that was a good decision.
Dude, he just crushes it. He's a hit maker.
So good.
And the Steel Drivers are great, too. I have a couple of songs that I have cut from them. And noticeably a Chris Stapleton band. I mean, how could you not be with that voice? But, yeah, he's done amazing on his own and just crushing hits. That's what he does.
And was in Mississippi on Saturday night, I think it was. I think he was in – was it Meridian?
I need to get out more often. Huh?
Yeah. He was with Marty Stewart.
Oh, wow, yeah. Hey, that's a tandem.
Born in Lexington, Kentucky.
I'll say this. I know our – team in Meridian, they are amazing, and Shelley, they always have a lot of fun things to do. So I'm going to check on that and why did I not get the text on that?
Yeah. This day in 1912, the RMS Titanic sinks at 2:27 a.m. off Newfoundland as the band plays on with a loss of somewhere between 1,490 and 1,635 people. I guess they haven't been able to decide exactly how many souls perished that day. On this day in 1947, Jackie Robinson officially broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball, becomes the first African-American to play in a United States Major League Baseball game, did so with the Brooklyn Dodgers. This day in 1955, pretty significant. Ray Kroc opened the first McDonald's Inc. fast food restaurant in Des Plaines, Illinois. And how about this baseball note from 1968? The Houston Astros beat the New York Mets 1-0 in 24 innings.
Wow.
At the Astrodome. Starting pitchers Tom Seaver and Don Wilson pitched 10 and 9 innings respectively in a game that lasted over 6 hours.
I wonder what the pitch counts were on those 9 and 10 innings.
1-0. Everybody, not everybody, a lot of people like a good pitcher's duel.
Now, I don't know if about 24 innings of that, though. Goodness.
Yeah, that could probably use a little bit of offense. We get to some news headlines coming up with you. We've got sports headlines, a lottery update, and more, including a conversation this morning with Dr. Lance Evans from the Department of Education and Lars Larson. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Venom.
Wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
You better think about what you're trying to do to me. Think, let your mind go, let yourself be free. Let's go back.
Jeff in Grenada on the C Spire text line says Hee Haw and Austin City Limits must watch TV in the day.
Yeah, WDBD Channel 40? That's where Austin City Limits was? Man, I was all over that.
ACL still going strong. A little bit different than it used to be, but still going.
Good.
Robert says with those big televisions, nobody broke into your house and stole your TV.
No, we do get broken into, but it wasn't the TVs that went. If somebody would have had to, had a crane in there to get those things out. But yeah, man, I loved Austin City Limits. First place I ever really saw Stevie Ray Vaughan perform, and I was like, who in the world is this guy?
There
oh my
go.
Lord! And then the rest is kind of history after that. But
news out of Ole Miss, the university has announced plans for a new research center to support national efforts in prevailing the scientific and regulatory challenges in cannabis research. The Resource Center for Cannabis and Cannabinoid Research will be housed in the university's already existing National Center for National Products Research, which is one of the nation's leading marijuana research programs. You know that Ole Miss has one of the only legal marijuana study places. And it's funny, going all the way back to when I was a kid, you remember people talking about, the marijuana field on campus at Ole Miss. It still exists. It's still there. They're still doing cutting-edge research with that. The new research center is supported by the National Institutes of Health and includes Ole Miss, Washington State University, and United States Pharmacopoeia. The new center will provide tools such as seed funding, webinars, conferences, and an interactive website to help guide researchers in areas including regulatory compliance, research support, and standard developments, which aim to expand and improve cannabis research across the United States, contributing to safer, more effective therapeutic applications of cannabis-derived compounds. They're studying the weed, trying to make sure that it can be used for good, I suppose. Did you see this announcement yesterday? Pretty big on the economic development front for the United States. NVIDIA announced yesterday that it will produce its artificial intelligence supercomputers in the United States for the very first time. The tech giant says that it has commissioned more than 1 million square feet of manufacturing space to build and test its specialized Blackwell chips in Arizona, And AI supercomputers in Texas, part of an investment that the company said will produce up to $500 billion of AI infrastructure in the next 4 years. The founder of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, said in a statement, the engines of the world's AI infrastructure are being built in the United States for the first time. Adding American manufacturing helps us better meet the incredible and growing demand for AI chips and supercomputers, strengthens our supply chain, and boosts our resiliency. NVIDIA's announcement comes as the Trump administration has said that tariff exemptions on electronics like smartphones and laptops are only a temporary reprieve until they develop a new tariff approach specific to the semiconductor industry. So $500 billion in infrastructure and manufacturing from NVIDIA going to happen in the United States.
You know, the only thing that really gets me, and I've tried to dig around a good bit, I think I sent you an article the other day about the hidden cost of a lot of this, and that's energy, obviously. You know, just what is it going to do to the grid? And obviously we've heard a good bit about the grid in America is stressed and strained, and as we continue to employ more AI, which is extremely energy intensive and consumes a lot. I mean, some of them consume as much as a whole country does. So I'm really curious how whether we're going to continue down the path we're on, Richard, or will you see developments and innovation in the energy market because of this demand for energy? Because it can't continue as it is, or you and I are going to be paying $800 a month for a power bill. So you hope innovation really, truly leads and comes along with this, because it could be, groundbreaking as far as what we could see in the future. But yeah, that's my one worry, is the drain on the juice.
But you know what, the energy conversation, to me, the problem with what people talk about when it comes to energy consumption is it's not either or. It's not you're either dependent on fossil fuels or you are dependent on the sun.
Man,
or
you
wind,
got to be
or
diversified.
Water. That's absolutely right.
We were even doing this in the world of stocks and all that and investments, 15, 20 years ago, was really looking in, green technology really didn't have the moniker of, fraud or waste, or, it was a emerging industry where there was promise, but it was a piece of the equation. It wasn't something, we're going to shift from this to that and from here to there.
Yeah.
It was you're looking at it holistically, you're slicing up pieces and percentages going, hey, we can do this here. And it's kind of like the way the A's put together a championship winning team. You find the pieces and parts that work best.
Yeah. Back in the early days of Moneyball, before that was such a novel, or I guess it was still a novel thing at the time. I will tell you this. I was last Sunday, went to a concert in Little Rock. Took my daughter and
beautiful
friend of hers,
place
and
too.
Another dad went, and as we were driving through parts of the Arkansas Delta, there were fields that at one point were either cotton fields or bean fields or rice fields, and now they're solar farms, and they're hideous. I mean, they are hideous. The only thing to me that's uglier than a solar farm is a wind farm.
Yeah, the birds would agree on that, I think.
The wind farm's got all kinds of problems, including what do you do when it's time to replace the big arms on the windmill?
Well, yeah, and then
you can't get rid of them. They're digging holes and burying them. You can't tell me that. I mean, that's the problem with when you go, we got to get away from fossil fuels. Okay, well, what's the alternative?
Well, and you also have to
electric.
Yeah.
Okay, what are you doing with all the mining that has to go into making batteries, and what is it, cobalt? That's the issue there, and what are you doing with the parts of the windmills, and what are you doing when a hailstorm rolls through and pops one of these solar farms and does $100 million worth of damage, or whatever the number is?
We had marble-sized hail pelting us, a few days ago, and there are several. The one out on 43 is kind of a sight to see. The solar farm out there that they've been putting together out, I guess it would be east of the Nissan Parkway back over toward 43.
Yeah.
It is something to see. I've ridden down in there and watched them work and everything. But, yeah, a little marble-sized hail, you look at that on those beautiful, devices. Like, I don't know if that's this.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, scary.
No thanks.
So the cost of that, you got to insure all that. And then, of course, everything's got to run. And so I'm with you. It's interesting. Obviously, we're in that embryonic phase of hopefully better things to come, but yet a lot of growing pains with what we're working in. But again, I'm not one of these that thinks green energy is an evil thing. I do believe it's a piece of the equation, just like coal is and natural gas.
Yeah.
Always
nuclear.
Blows my mind, Richard, when you go by and you see these these oil refineries burning off the natural gas. Where Russia's sitting over there selling this stuff for premium dollars to Europe. You're going, what am I missing here, man? They're like, well, it just costs too much to get it there. Liquefy it. I did this stuff for a living, man. I mean, liquefied natural gas, goodness. But, yeah, that's always was a mind blower back in the day. And you'd see like $4 per MCF natural gas is just burning off up there. Like, oh, my God,
That's an expensive flame that we're looking at.
Yeah.
You know that communication has evolved over time, right? We've come a long way from the tin can on a string, landlines, walkie-talkies, cell phones. Is there another way to communicate? Well, there may be. And maybe we're looking to elephants to try to figure out how they communicate. As the ground shook from a 5.2 magnitude earthquake, a herd of elephants at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park sprung into action to protect their calves. A video shot of their enclosure at the park on Monday morning shows the 5 African elephants standing around in the morning sun, just hanging out before the camera starts shaking because of an earthquake, and the elephants run in different directions. Then the older elephants, Ndlula, Umgani, and Koshi, scramble to encircle and shield the 2 7-year-old calves, Zuli and Micaiah, from any possible threats. They remain huddled around the calves for several minutes as the older elephants look outward, appearing to be at the ready, ears spread and flapping even after the rocking started. How'd they communicate that was the plan in the event of an earthquake? The quake was felt from San Diego to Los Angeles, about 120 miles away. The elephants protecting their young. They didn't call each other on a cell phone to say, hey, let's huddle up and make sure the little ones are okay. Sports headlines coming your way next. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Tu vas venir avec moi dans la maison. Finis tes jours dans tes bras avec ton air.
You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on Super Talk, Mississippi.
C-Spire text line open to you at 601-879-4395. MRC, Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Some sports headlines for you on this Tuesday morning. It's a baseball Tuesday, and they're going to start early today in Oxford. It's the annual school day game. Little Rock is the opponent, and Ole Miss is hosting them at Swayze Field. First pitch today at 11 a.m. We were doing the Mad Scramble this morning at the house looking for the old field trip T-shirt. It's like, where did it go?
Where is this thing?
Where did it go? My youngest is headed to the ballpark today. It's a cool event. They started doing this at basketball, added baseball probably a decade ago, and you have second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth graders, all ages, from schools within, I don't know, an hour driving distance from the Ole Miss campus.
Yeah, they pack them in there.
They sure do. They'll be. Last year they had over 5,000 kids that were at the baseball game, and it is a different type of noise. It is a buzz that never stops. It is a higher pitched frequency than you normally hear at the ball yard. And the craziest thing is if the game goes really fast, fine, you get a big crowd for the whole game. But usually they have to start packing up and heading out about 1 o'clock. And so about the fifth or sixth inning, Lance,
yes,
you look up and it's gone from packed house to like crickets.
Yeah, there's whoever's parents are driving
them home. Where'd everybody go?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorite events, though. I actually always love turning it on and hearing the kids because it's like romper room with a baseball game going on.
Yeah.
It can't. I mean, I'd have to put myself back in that time when I was a kid, and I remember when the New York Mets came down and played the Jackson Mets.
Oh yeah,
and it was in the broad daylight. Like you got to go and sit on the field and everything.
Now, was that a skip school day or was that
I think I can't remember what it was, but I'm 50, man. That was so long ago. I had to be like 12. But you had all the stars and everything, and it was the coolest thing because we all got to sit there and just enjoy the heroes and then the guys coming up. And I always thought that was such a great event, and it really did turn me on to the sport more and more. As I got older, remembering that and just like how cool that was. So yeah, I love that event that Ole Miss does, the kid game, and
just is that like Lenny Dykstra?
Yes. Oh, I mean, you had
Strawberry.
Mookie Wilson, Strubbe, all that crew. I think Doc was up by
Doc
then,
Gooden.
and Craig
Carter.
Jeffries, and it was just an amazing lineup. You had Hernandez in the stash, and he put one up, and he put one out into the pine trees, and but yeah, it was, and we played there too, growing up. So there was all that history. And it's Jackson State Stadium now, and it still has a lot of great bones to it, and they've kept it looking pretty good. But, yeah, I mean, as a kid, though, that really was such a great honor.
Smith Wills.
Man, but, I mean, and I kind of coupled that with what those kids get to see today because it is a wonderful event. And you get a lot of interaction, and that means so much to those little ones, man. They love that.
And, look, if bat makes contact with ball, a cheer goes up. It doesn't matter if it's a routine ground out to the shortstop or a high fly ball to the outfield that's got no chance of leaving the yard. It goes to crescendo in a hurry.
Everything's a bomb.
Southern University, the Jaguars, in Starkville tonight to take on a Mississippi State team. It's playing some pretty good baseball. If you missed the conversation that the boys had yesterday afternoon with Chris Lamonis or Christian Ostrander or Mike Bianco, that was on Sports Talk Mississippi. You can always grab that on demand at supertalk.fm or get the podcast. Podcast available for all of the shows on SuperTalk Mississippi, wherever you get your podcasts. Southern Miss headed to Hammond tonight to take on the Southeastern Louisiana Lions. I think they're the Lions.
It's a native animal. It's a native animal.
If you would like. Got a new top 25 out from D1 baseball. Little flip at the top. Texas is now the number one team in the country. Arkansas checking in at number 2. Give you the SEC teams and Southern Miss. Tennessee, after taking 2 from Ole Miss over the weekend, moves up a spot to number 4. Georgia moves up to number 5. You've got Auburn at 8, LSU at 9, Ole Miss at 11, Alabama at 15, Oklahoma at 18, Vanderbilt at 19. There's Southern Miss at number 23, staying put in that spot for the second consecutive week. So
let me ask you this. Obviously, football is easier to kind of determine what is the polling, but in baseball, what have we shifted to as the most reliable? Since this is your bag, I was curious. Do you like D1 the best?
I think the guys at D1 do a really good job. They consume a ton of college baseball. That's who ESPN has gone to for its kind of official rankings. They're like half a dozen different baseball polls.
Yeah, there's too many. That's why I was asking you. I figured you had it figured out.
You got D1, and then you've got the USA Today Coaches Poll, which is like the Media Relations Director poll. And you've got collegiate baseball, the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association, and I think Perfect Game puts out a poll, and there may be somebody else as well. So, yeah, I just kind of default to D1, and whatever they say, we'll go with that number. I don't have an issue with that.
Good. Well, now I know where to go for my rankings.
D1baseball.com.
No, yeah, I've got it up, man. It's one of my favorites. It's just, it's hard. Everybody ranks them differently. One here, one there, one here, one there. It's like, who's the best here? What's the one that I need to go with? Well, Cross says D1 baseball, and I'm in.
When Madison Scott chose to play women's college basketball at Ole Miss, the Ole Miss women's program, frankly, was a dumpster fire. And yet she said, I'm in. She bought into the vision of Yolette McPhee-McEwen, and she played there for 5 years. And all the hard work paid off last night. She was the 14th overall pick. It was early second round of the WNBA draft that happened in Brooklyn last night. She's the 8th Rebel to have been drafted into the WNBA. An outstanding 5-year career at Ole Miss, becoming one of the most exciting players in the SEC. This past season, she averaged double figures in 21 games, 12 points, 4 assists, and led Ole Miss in both categories. Finishes her career with 1,600 points and 1,000 career rebounds. Second team All-SEC, so congratulations to Madison Scott, drafted by the Dallas Wings. So she is headed to the Metroplex, where she will continue her basketball career. Regardless of the sport, whether you're talking about the NFL draft, which is coming up next week, Major League Baseball draft, NBA, WNBA, soccer, whatever it is, if you get to the point where you hear your name called and somebody says officially, not only are you going to be a professional, we are picking you to be part of our team, I can't imagine the emotion that goes along with hearing your name.
Yeah, and relief, too.
Yeah.
Put in your whole life.
Were you drafted out of high school?
No. I was very honest that I had no desire to go straight in. I was a pretty decent student, and parents are like, no, you're getting an education, son.
Gonna get that.
Yeah.
Gonna get that. So congratulations to Madison Scott. There was a fumble at the White House, and it had nothing to do with politics yesterday. You see this? Vice President J.D. Vance ended the Ohio State football team's visit to the White House by fumbling the national championship trophy.
Can't do that.
So you had Ohio State there, invited to the White House to celebrate and be recognized for winning a national championship. President Donald Trump spoke, Ryan Day spoke, Vance spoke, all on the South Lawn. And J.D. Vance is a Buckeye. He's an Ohio State grad, and he tried to pick up the trophy and hoist it up above his head. He didn't count on the fact that the top of the trophy is designed to separate from the base. And after struggling a little bit to pick it all up, lost his grip on the two pieces. And Travion Henderson, one of the running backs from Ohio State, standing behind J.D. Vance, grabbed the football-shaped top of the trophy. But the base fell to the ground, and Vance was trying to grasp it as it was rolling around on the ground. You can't do that.
No, you've got to wipe your hands and get the grilled cheese grease off your hands or whatever you just ate before you grab a trophy, because it's dangerous. Yeah. So yeah, that's you think that's going to cost him some votes maybe next go around? This guy can't even hold on to a trophy. It's going to be used somehow. It's going to be like a meme forever.
Trump was a little funny in this. He credited Ohio State winning the championship despite some adversity, including their loss to unranked Michigan at home in November, and said he hesitated to mention OSU's fourth consecutive defeat to, quote, the team up north. We won't talk about it, close quote.
They were trying to fire Day after that, and then they were upset.
And
then you're going to win the Natty, so it's okay,
There you go. It worked out for them in the end. Massive viewership for the final round of the Masters on Sunday. CBS was most happy to tell the world that they averaged 12.7 million viewers, up 33% year over year. Coverage peaked at almost 20 million viewers between 6 and 6:15. That's when the playoff was going. Also, they had a big streaming presence on Paramount Plus with triple-digit viewership growth over last year. More and more people comfortable streaming their sports, not just going to CBS or ESPN or whatever the channel is. So there you go. A lot of people watching Rory finally get that monkey off his back and not only win the Masters, but achieve the career Grand Slam. Those are your sports headlines. Take a quick look at some of the numbers from the lottery with the Mississippi Lottery update next.
From the Venable.
Waking up Mississippi. From South Haven to Scuba, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. We'll get you a lottery update in just a moment, but two quick ones for you before we move on. You've heard about the Savannah Bananas, the semi-pro baseball team that operates on a baseball field kind of like the Harlem Globetrotters operate on a basketball court, right? It's just fun and interactive with the fans, and there's some great athleticism that goes along with it, but it has become a cultural phenomenon. Well, the newest announcement or game coming up for the Savannah Bananas, the crowds have gotten so big, Lance, that they have moved a lot of these games to football stadiums. Played one in Tampa Bay to a sellout crowd not too terribly long ago. They're about to play one at Death Valley. Now, not the Baton Rouge Death Valley, the other one, Clemson's Death Valley. Big stadium, seats 81,000 people. They're going to put a net in left field because it's only 190 feet from home plate to the wall.
Oh, that's basically the old Vanderbilt Stadium. I got you.
Yeah, kind of like that, except they'll put a big net in, and they have sold it out. They have sold 81,000 tickets.
Good Lord, man.
For the Savannah Bananas to play inside Clemson's football stadium.
That's amazing. And congratulations to them, too. I mean, they're marketing gurus.
Ooh, what are you talking about?
Yeah, everyone needs to take a page out of their playbook.
Yeah.
And just put yourself out there when it comes to, I mean, you got minor league baseball. I mean, there's a bazillion of them. But if you can distinguish yourself like that.
That's right.
I mean, anything's possible.
They are a traveling, barnstorming road show that is filling stadiums everywhere they go. And in today's edition of what the news and the media tells you might not exactly be what's going on, Tesla, right? Been in the news a lot. Vandalism, boycotting. I'm getting rid of my Tesla. What do you think that's done for sales to Tesla? Well, the numbers came out yesterday. Tesla outsold the next 10 electric vehicle brands combined in Q1 2025. They remained ahead of the competition, selling 128,100 EVs. That is more than the next 10 competitors combined.
Congratulations. I mean, who thought it 10 years ago? Who would have thought it?
It's quite the American manufacturing success story, if you're into things like that.
Yeah, if that matters to you.
All right, let's get you your lottery update. Lottery update, no jackpot winner. The estimated jackpot for Lotto America tomorrow night, now over $31 million, with an estimated cash value of $13.9 million. Monday night's numbers, 7, 10, 13, 21, 42. I feel like somebody should have gotten those. Starball was 10. The All-Star bonus multiplier was 2. Also, we did not have a jackpot winner with Powerball last night. The estimated jackpot for tomorrow night up to $113 million, an estimated cash value of $50.5 million. Monday night's numbers, 3, 20, 30, 52, 62. The Powerball was 1, and the Power Play multiplier was 3.
Well, your double play, Monday, April 14th, 9, 18, 41, 42, 63. You had a Powerball of 4. Your Mega Millions, there was no jackpot winner. It's creeping up there, too. $96 million for tonight's drawing. Estimated cash on that, $42.2 million. Numbers from Friday, 15, 37, 38, 56, and 58. Mega Ball of 19.
No jackpot winner on Mega Millions in the most recent drawing. That was on Friday, so you got another one coming up tonight. Value of the jackpot, $96 million. The estimated cash value, a little over $42 million. You can be sure to tune in and still got time to get your ticket for that. No jackpot winner with Mississippi Match 5. The numbers for Monday night, 5, 10, 21, 25, 31. You can check out the Cash 3, Cash 4 numbers on the lottery website at mslottery.com. Mississippi Lottery will announce the second winner of the 2025 NASCAR Powerball Playoff next Thursday. That's April 24th, with one lucky player set to take home $8,500 plus a $3,500 early bird bonus. The promotion features 7 qualifying races with 15 total Mississippi winners. All will advance to the national NASCAR Powerball Playoff for a shot at the $1 million grand prize. You may remember that back in 2023, West Point native Stephanie Walker won $1 million to enter. Got to be a Mississippi Lottery insider, reside in the state of Mississippi. To be a lottery insider, go to the website, mslottery.com, and receive the latest entry form. It's really easy to do. That's your Mississippi Lottery update. We'll take a quick time out. 7 o'clock hour coming up right after the news on Mornings with Richard Cross. You're listening to Super Talk Mississippi.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Want to know what's happening in Mississippi politics?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
What's different about us? I don't really know. No matter how I try, I just can't make her cry.
Welcome again, 7 o'clock hour on this Tuesday morning. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Glad to be spending part of the day with you. The beginning of your day. This hour of the show is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can help. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call, 601-206-7966, or go to mwgemployerservices.com. C-Spire text line is open this morning and every day, 601-879-4395. In sports and business, having the right team behind you matters. Partner with C-Spire today for business solutions from dedicated, certified IT engineers. Learn more at cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. Mentioned this earlier, but if you're just joining us, Dr. Lance Evans will join us about 30 minutes from right now. He is the superintendent for the Mississippi Department of Education. We will get an update from what's going on at MDE, talk about this current school year as it is nearing its end. 5 weeks left on the school calendar for most of the state of Mississippi. And also, what about funding? As there is a lot of concern right now about some funding cuts and how they may affect the different school districts in Mississippi. And Dr. Evans wrote a pretty scathing letter to the Federal Department of Education, talking about some of the things that had been promised for Mississippi and other states, and what was happening there as well. Thomas in Greenwood says, "Happy Tax Day, gentlemen."
I had to look up who Gordon Wendell
to
Call
you as
was.
well, I suppose. Yeah. So what? Gordon Gecko?
Gordon Wendell Call. We had one of our KAHL. We had one of our listeners, Duke Kiss Realty, said Happy Gordon Call Day. He was a tax protester back in the day. So
is that the precursor to Grover Norquist?
I think this guy is a little bit more radical. It says killed a federal officer, assaulting federal officer, probation violator, tax evader, and former World War II veteran and farmer. So yeah, that I did not know who that was until I looked it up. But it says over a decade of militant tax evasion and a year in prison, Call was shot and attempted arrest in Smithville, Lawrence County, by County Sheriff Gene Matthews, in an incident that made national headlines, the Smithville shootout.
Hey, the good news is you don't necessarily have to write a check to the government today, but you do have to let them know that you will be writing a check or they will be writing you a check soon. So if you file taxes on your own, you gotta submit something today, and if you have a tax professional that helps you with that, then probably worth a quick phone call to make sure that they are submitting something on your behalf. I'm a bit of a procrastinator, Lance.
Yeah, love paperwork.
I like that. I like that October 15th deadline a whole lot more than the April 15th deadline. I was curious. It was windy here overnight, and when I walked outside this morning, the first thing I noticed was, man, the wispies from the oak trees came down in abundance last night. As if you need to know this, but I'll tell you anyway. The pollen count today in Mississippi, very high. Tree pollen is high. Grass pollen is high. Good news, there's no ragweed right now. So if ragweed is what gets you, you're okay for a little while.
I could tell. I woke up this morning. I was like, I kind of sat out a long time last night, the wind and everything. Mm-hmm. I was a little bit, as I woke up. So thank you for giving me the report. I was wondering what was going on today. I'm like, now I know, Richard. Thank you so much.
I will tell you, I growing up, it didn't bother me, or at least I didn't think it bothered me, because I was outside all the time. As I've gotten older, my allergies have become a little more sensitive, and I'll get, I get the kind of hoarse or the stuffy nose like everybody gets, but for me, that was like consistently developing into these sinus infections that would last for weeks, if not months. I finally went and saw an allergist. My buddy Dr. Wynn Walcott has taken care of me. And I admit that I am not as consistent as I should be with my allergy shots. Like, I did that for a while. You just go get one a week. And I was really good for a while, but then with the schedule changes and whatever else, I've gotten out of the routine. I got to get back doing that. But do like Zyrtec and nose spray every single day. It has changed for the good, my situation.
When I was a kid, I had to have the little allergy shots. I was like 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
So do you have? Is that something that can continue into the adulthood? You have allergies.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I am prescribed to get one allergy or 2 That's 2 a week. It's 1 in each arm.
I love Rocky.
You duck into their little office and pop you with a needle, and you get out.
Oh, I remember Mom giving them to me too. As a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I love Rocky and Marks.
I asked about that because I remember my grandmother giving herself allergy shots, but I think they have to be prescribed.
Yeah, I don't know if they're allowed that anymore. Rocky goes, I coughed up a dandelion and a pine cone this morning. You and me both, buddy. I know how you feel.
Somebody says you can just eat local honey and stay off drugs. I've heard that. I have heard that, and maybe it does work. And if it does work for you, that is fantastic. My guess, well, I don't want to assume this, but your allergy susceptibleness or severity might not be as high as some others. I'm not telling you what to do or not do. I'm just telling you what worked for me. Yes, I would prefer not to take a pill every single day of my life for the rest of my life, but, whatever. Thomas in Greenwood, my allergies are as bad as anyone's per the docs back when I was younger, but the cheap Walmart eye drops and nose spray for a few weeks keeps me off the allergy meds. Well, good for you. I'm glad that works for you. Again, I'm not telling you to take medicine or don't take medicine. I'm just telling you it worked for me. And
now, I got to do the eye drop.
Rough.
Yeah, I got to do the eye drops thing. It feels like you got salt grains in your eyes at times. So, yeah. That's the one thing that I wouldn't say addicted to, but, yeah, I've got to have some eye drops periodically.
Yep, very cool. Or whatever.
Or not, yeah.
Whatever it is,
Whichever
it's
one
not
you want.
cool, but whatever it is that you need. You sent me a story last night, and I told you, I said, this reads like it's in the Babylon Bee.
That's why I sent it. I'm like, I don't know about this one, but
Chicago reportedly is canceling its Cinco de Mayo parade. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are not celebrating, or we are not celebrating my daughter's birthday this year. We're still going to do that. But listen to this. Event organizers for Chicago's Cinco de Mayo parade have canceled this year's festivities over fears immigrations and custom enforcement officers might attend and round up attendees for deportation. What some might call a target-rich environment.
Yeah, bait. It's like when you leave the chum line out and you go swimming and there's sharks all around you.
The planners placed the blame squarely on President Donald Trump's immigration policies, which they claim have created trepidation in the migrant community despite their popularity among U.S. voters. Wait, you mean the people that are here in the United States illegally?
What is popularity amongst the
Hector
American?
Escobar says, our people are scared. It's not much to celebrate. That's what he told ABC 7 in Chicago.
Well, it's a make-believe celebration anyway for the Latino people, but whatever.
Escobar said that some people in the community do not even want to go to work because they worry they might encounter ICE officers. He admitted that he was fearful of creating an opportunity for ICE actions, and through the gathering adding, we don't want to have any confrontation or having people taken away from the festival, from the parade to custody. Okay. One thought, though, about the whole they are placing the blame squarely on Donald Trump. Chicago Police Department canceled the Cinco de Mayo parade in 2024. Why'd they do that? Donald Trump? Oh, no. My bad. It was due to gang violence, including gunshots fired along the parade route. The parade was not held between 2018 and 2022 due to COVID and internal disputes between organizers. For example, the gathering was canceled in 2018 after this guy we were quoting a second ago, Escobar, and his fellow planners had a spat with the area's alderman. But it's all Donald Trump's fault that there won't be a Cinco de Mayo parade in Chicago.
From the Venable Glass.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome to the show.
But she always knows her place. She's got style, she's got grace. She's a winner. She's a lady. Whoa, she's a lady. Talking about that little lady. And the lady is mine. But she's never in the way. Always something nice to say.
Back with you. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for being with us. Somebody was telling us that the Savannah Bananas were coming to Starkville.
Yeah,
actually the party animals.
Okay.
So the party animals are a sometimes opponent of the Savannah Bananas.
That's the green and yellow Harlem Globetrotter opponent team, basically, right?
Yeah.
Washington.
It's the Washington Generals
Yes,
who are breaking off and doing their own tour as well. So they're kind of doing a little swing in August through some SEC baseball stadiums. August 8th and 9th, they will be in Baton Rouge. The Texas Tailgaters are playing the Party Animals at Alex Box Stadium.
You got to love the names of minor league baseball
Yeah.
mascots. They're the best.
Baum Walker Stadium in Fayetteville, Arkansas, 15th and the 16th of August, and then Friday the 22nd and Saturday the 23rd of August, the Texas Tailgaters at the Party Animals at Duty Noble in Starkville. So, you're going to go from Starkville to Frisco to San Antonio to Round Rock.
He's skipping some big ones in there. I mean, you got Arkansas and LSU.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But, hey, kudos to them for getting into the heart of baseball country down here.
That's right.
Mississippi.
And I was looking at the Savannah Bananas schedule. They've sold out everywhere they've been. Mesa, Arizona, Glendale, Arizona, Fort Myers, Savannah, Miami, Savannah, Tampa Bay, Savannah, Atlanta. Sold out in Clemson, South Carolina. That's why we started talking about this. They're playing Nissan Stadium in Nashville on May 10th. Sold out. Playing at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City. That's the home of the Royals.
Place.
Sold out. Yeah, it's a
brother-in-law played there. And then we had several Ole Miss guys come through up there, but my brother-in-law played. They came up with them. What an unbelievable stadium.
Mm-hmm.
You got to love a fountain,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's spectacular.
Hey, even
first Major League Baseball game I watched in person.
Really? That's a good place to go.
Kauffman Park, Kansas City.
Wow.
Bo Jackson in left field.
My first was Fulton County, the old cookie cutter, baby. Yeah, that was fun.
Yep, had my first two were Kansas City and Old Busch Stadium in St. Louis.
Got to do the Busch Stadium as a player. Went up there, and we were in the St. Louis dugout, so we had their living arrangements back there, and that was the coolest thing ever. When you come in and they have a tap for every Busch beer, and it was in the it was in the in the what do you call it, the players' lounge and all that. It was really cool. I mean, seeing that firsthand.
Yeah. C-Spire text line, can't blame the folks in Chicago for being scared. One person who came through a port of entry had proper paperwork and was literally in line for a scheduled immigration hearing and was just deported. ICE doesn't care if you came in properly and did things the right way. They have to hit their quota, and if you look illegal, best of luck proving you're not, considering POTUS is refusing to comply with a 9-0 SCOTUS order requiring due process. I kind of feel like you got your talking points there from a left-leaning outlet.
Yeah, that would.
My guess. That's a guess. I've not seen specifically the story you're talking about where there was a person who had their paperwork, they were in line for an immigration hearing and were deported. My guess is there's a little bit more to the story. There is not a quota that ICE has. Their job is to get illegals out. Not a specific number. I mean, you're welcome to believe that if you would like to. In the same way that police officers and highway patrolmen and sheriff's deputies don't have quotas for writing tickets. Feels like they do sometimes, but they don't actually. We've asked Sean Tyndall specifically that question here before, and he said, no, there are no quotas. He said, now, if we've got officers that aren't writing any tickets, then we probably have a problem. We have officers that are writing an exorbitant number of tickets, we probably have a problem. I mean, there's a data set there that's big enough to show you that there are tickets that are going to be written. But you missed the point of what I was telling you with regard to this story from Breitbart where Chicago is canceling its Cinco de Mayo parade. They are blaming Donald Trump, and that may be the excuse of the day for why they're not doing the Cinco de Mayo parade, but this is a parade that has a history of having problems, including gang violence and shooting last year along the parade route. And yes, if I was a police officer and there was a group of people who were clearly affiliated with gangs and were shooting guns along the parade route on what's supposed to be a day of celebration, whether it's a made-up holiday or not, I would certainly be looking into whether or not they were here legally in the United States. And so maybe, if you want to call that targeting,
well, and give me
feel free.
Anyone out there that's in support of illegals running around all over this country, whether it's 1 or 30 million of them, give me a defense of why you think that's okay. I'd like to know. I mean, we get these cryptic texts at times from people that think that Donald Trump is a Nazi because he's trying to get rid of illegals. Give me one reason why they should be here.
And
one reason.
More than that.
And I'd love to know if I went to Mexico how that would work, or Venezuela, or any of these places.
Yeah, there you go. More than that, Show me another country with border laws, immigration laws, border crossings that were as lax as they were at the southern border in the United States over the previous 4 years.
Or the previous 20-something years.
But specifically where it was just encouraged over the last 4 years. And I'm going to give you a little head start on your research. You can't find one.
Nope.
You ever tried to cross from the United States into Canada? Mm-mm. Not going to do it easily. Thomas says deportations at the Cinco de Mayo parade sounds like a good time. It would be like the running of the bulls, but more fun.
Man.
Yeah.
That image just came through my head. Sorry, I didn't mean.
Have you ever run with the bulls?
I have not done that. My sister was in Barcelona though for a summer study back in college, and I don't remember if she actually ran with them, but I believe she went to the thing, and maybe they did run. I can't remember.
Yeah. I try not to have much in the way of regrets. I don't have many. That is one. I was convinced when I was, I don't know, like a sophomore or junior in college that I couldn't afford a summer trip abroad, that I had to keep my grass business going and, had this, that, and the other. And all of those things were true. And yet, looking back, it's like, come on, man, get your act together. A buddy of mine was backpacking in Europe, and it included a trip to Barcelona during the running of the bulls, and they ran with the bulls, and that is something that I wish that I could say I had done. Would you do it at this stage of your life?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I would too.
And I'd be scooting.
I would too.
A bull wouldn't catch me.
And yes, I know that people get impaled and gored and all of that. Yeah, I know. There are a lot of things we do in life that are risky. I would not necessarily want my children to do it, at least not at this stage of their life. But yeah, I mean, if 20-year-old Obi goes to Europe one summer and ends up in Barcelona while they're running with the bulls and he doesn't, I'd be like,
Now you got to have your red bandana and your white shirt and your deerskin flask full of red wine. And that's like the precursor to the whole thing working, I think.
I mean, I wouldn't be upset with him for not doing it, but I would be like, you probably missed an opportunity to make a memory and have a story to tell.
See,
for the rest
I
of your
love
life.
that kind of parenting right there. That's good stuff, man. That's kind of how my parents would have been too. Man, take a shot at it.
Yeah.
Give it a try. Just be careful.
You don't have to be the fastest. You only have to be faster than the slowest.
And you got to be good at weaving.
With your head on a swivel.
Yeah, you got to weave a little bit with all those folks out there
That's
gyrating and running arms akimbo. You don't want to get tripped up in that deal.
And you could say that the whole exercise is dumb, but the truth of the matter is, don't be the dumbest within the crowd of dumb.
Yeah, and don't be on the back, right? Don't be caught in the back. You don't want to be. It's not like class. You want to be in the front on this deal.
State Superintendent of Education Lance Evans, in a letter to Linda McMahon, the Cabinet Secretary for the Department of Education, said these are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. They represent critical services and supports that directly benefit our most vulnerable students. Concern about a funding freeze, nearly $137 million that was expected to come to Mississippi through March of 2026. We're back with you right after this, joined by the State Superintendent of Education, Dr. Lance Evans. This is Mornings with Richard Cross. This segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Find out what's happening across your state. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Maybe I'll start tonight. You've been crying like me. Baby, let's just wait and see. Maybe I'll start tonight until things are
Welcome back. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thank you for being with us. Love to hear from you on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. C Spire, inspired by you. Reminder that Lars Larson will join us to start the 8 o'clock hour, but right now we visit with Dr. Lance Evans, the State Superintendent of Education, right here in the great state of Mississippi. Good morning, Dr. Evans.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I have to ask you this as we start. We were talking about the travel pictures in the background. You and Lance were before the our Lance, not you, Lance, before the break.
Yes, right.
Before that, we were talking about running with the Bulls. In your travels, have you been to Barcelona, and did you run with the Bulls?
I have not, but if I had the opportunity to run with the Bulls, even with my old self, I would be out there doing it.
Okay.
That would be one of those that I would like to check off the bucket list.
We are 3 for 3 on that, and we established that you don't have to be the fastest runner. You just have to be faster than the slowest runner, and you don't be the dumbest guy in the crowd either.
Yeah. It's kind of like the bear chasing you, right? You just got to be able to trip the right person so you can.
Maybe so. It's been an interesting. It's been an interesting year. It's been an interesting few weeks, especially in your office. We are watching the Department of Government Efficiency kind of look at agencies all over the federal landscape. There are lots of cuts. There are lots of freezes that are happening. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago the announcement came down that the Department of Education was freezing remaining COVID money that had been promised but had not yet fully been spent, and that has an effect, or at least potentially has an effect here in Mississippi. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, sir. It has a tremendous effect, and thank you for the opportunity to come on here and provide some information to the public about what's going on. We try to be very transparent and ensure that our districts know what's going on. But on March the 28th, about 4:30 that afternoon, I headed back up north home and was headed to a baseball game with my sons and got an email. And the email basically said, it was 4:29, to be honest with you. I can remember that at 5 o'clock that afternoon, they were shutting off the portal for ESSER funds, for remaining ESSER funds. And at that point in time, I thought we had somewhere around $180 million that was still out there. Of course, we had to start tabulating, obviously, over the weekend and first couple of days. But it's the total amount is about $137,221,000, somewhere in that ballpark. And it's one of those things to where I understand why they're doing some of the things they're doing, but this money's different. This money we already, and this is very important that I say this, no school district in the state of Mississippi and the Mississippi Department of Education did absolutely nothing wrong. We followed all the directions, all the rules to get late liquidation on the ESSER funds through 2026, and we're granted that. And that's why our districts move forward. That's why they move forward with the contracts they're in. And some of it is tied up in like learning loss type contracts, but also somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 million is tied up in construction work, which we know there is no, while you can negotiate an exit to a consulting contract for services that haven't been rendered, we can't do that with construction contracts. Yeah. Not to mention we have the work that's going on. So it's a huge issue for our state.
So $137 million that the federal government has promised that it would pay under a previous administration, but the federal government nonetheless, that gives you the peace of mind that you can go forward with certain projects, and now they're saying, no, this money is not going to come. So you sent a letter to Linda McMahon, right, the cabinet secretary for the Department of Education. What did you say specifically in that letter?
Well, we asked. Well, one, we outlined. We've sent one letter, and now in the process of sending a funding request for the agency as well as each of the district's projects. Excuse me. But in that letter, it was not an aggressive letter. It was excuse me. It was basically a clarification as a reminder of we move forward in our state based on this approval that we previously were granted in January. So that we applied for in December, January-ish, and received in January. Our districts enter into a contract, and we feel that you have a legal obligation to fulfill that. Otherwise, our districts would not have done that if they did not believe that they had that approval to move forward, unless they were willing to obviously absorb the cost on their own. Right. And we just asked for them to reinstate that, explain to them we would be applying for the reinstatement of funds. But, the thing is when it was, and again, nothing I'm saying is political. This is just cold hard facts, right? Zero political agenda to any of this. My job is to take care of our districts, our students, our communities in Mississippi. And I don't think that it's appropriate for us to have been told we can enter into a contract with these dollars and then have them taken back. This isn't funds, and the argument has been out there as to, well, why haven't we already spent them? Okay? And that's a fair question.
Yeah.
Well,
because
the billions
COVID was a
of
while
dollars
ago.
that were dumped into the economy, right, and also, but you got to understand the billions and billions of dollars that was dumped into the economy nationwide. There's no way there wasn't enough contractors to do the work. There wasn't. I mean, people were locked down with COVID still, depending on parts of the state. So it is, it's a tough deal, and it's causing undue burdens for our districts, and it's very concerning. But we are working aggressively to try to get some portion of that back.
Is it fair to say that this program, these funds, there's been kind of like a moving of the goalposts in terms of when the program would end? Like it was scheduled to end, and then you had to spend the money within 120 days, and then that deadline got pushed back again and again and again to the point where you're like, well, maybe they're just going to push it back in perpetuity?
No, sir, that was never. I can see where someone might see that, but no.
So help me understand that.
We knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, without the approval from USDE, U.S. Department of Education,
right,
to be granted the late liquidation of funds through 2026, that it was over. So when USDE sent the appropriate process, the department worked with the districts, 68 districts, and sent that information in on their projects and the state as a whole in order to be allowed late liquidation on the projects. So when they granted that, we knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, you knew it was going to be over in 2026, right? I mean, we knew this. We felt lucky that and this wasn't just Mississippi. Now, this is nationwide. This isn't just a Mississippi problem. This is across the entire United States. So when we got that late liquidation granted, we felt confident that completely confident that we could move forward with our projects, because literally our districts, the advice we gave them was just put a pause on what you're doing. Don't try to terminate contracts yet. Work with your vendors, work with your contractors. I'll do anything I can. My personality is such as that I will do anything I can to help anyone in our school district. So if I need to help speak with someone, I will. But to pause what's happening, because in the event you reinstate these funds, well, now we have, so you go from not being able to get the funding to spending obligations and requirements for spending certain amounts and percentages on things. And if you've terminated these contracts, you don't have the ability to do it. So it's complicated when you the entire process. But it is broken up across three different funds. We say ESSER funds just in general.
What does ESSER mean?
The three different. It is. Oh my goodness!
I mean, I'm sure it's an acronym for.
Isn't that terrible? Yes, education for say. Isn't that terrible? I've been calling it ESSER for years.
Yeah, no, it's all good. But
give me a minute; it'll come back. It'll give me a minute. Elementary, secondary school emergency relief. Yes.
There we go. Okay.
I knew it would come back eventually. I've been calling it ESSER for the last 5 years. So You know how those acronyms work sometimes.
Well, and I asked that because there are a lot of people that have just referred to this as it's COVID-19 money, and there is a little more specificity to it than, it's just money that the government threw out. There were specific programs that were put together that school districts and states had the ability to apply for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they had to meet certain criteria. The department here, we made sure that we were the first clearinghouse, if you will, for each project. And then it was sent on to ensure that it would be approved at the federal level, because everyone understood the rules. The rules were, if you move forward with the work before the project is approved, then you assume all the cost that's associated with it. And obviously our districts were cautious about that.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to enter into a project that you don't have the funding for.
So there are two big what-if questions going forward. Can you hang with me through the break, and let's talk just for a few more minutes before
Oh, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, we're good.
Dr. Lance Evans visiting with us, Superintendent for the Mississippi Department of Education. So what legal remedy is the Department of Education in Mississippi prepared to take, if necessary, to try and make sure these funds come in? And what if the funds don't come in? And is it the state's responsibility to make up for the shortfall? We'll talk about those two things when we come back with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming online at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. We're back with you right after this.
From the White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Dr. Lance Evans is my guest, State Superintendent of Education with the Mississippi Department of Education. We're talking about the freezing of funds by the federal Department of Education, about $137 million that had been allocated to Mississippi for projects, some of which are about to start, some of which are ongoing, some of those are construction related, and that money has been frozen. And Mississippi, the Department of Education, has applied for the reinstatement of those funds to finish the projects that were allocated and approved by the Federal Department of Education, and here we are. And that's kind of what we're talking about this morning. So in terms of moving forward, if these funds remain frozen and go away, what are the remedies in that situation? Is the State Department of Education prepared to pursue legal action against the federal government?
So that would run through the AG's office. We have met with the Lynn Finch with her office just to bring them up to date. Also, obviously, met with the governor's office. Received letters of support from them. I've also received letters of support from our congressional members moving forward with this request. In the beginning, it was when that original email came in for that entire week. There was like zero guidance. So it was like, here you go. This is what we're doing. And no follow-up. So obviously we're scrambling. And we knew that there would be typically felt like there would be some form of relief from to some extent. But they did obviously roll out the process that we can reapply. Now it is on a project by project basis. Okay. So you can imagine the work that goes into that. We are, we are rolling, if you will, for that, with that work to get that approved. But so that would come down to our state making that decision. Okay. I know that there's been some conversation about the state making up the difference. Before we get to that point, I do not want our taxpayers in the state of Mississippi to carry that burden without for sure applying as much pressure as possible to USDE to reinstate those funds. At least give us a 12-month window, right? So we can finish up some of the projects, because all those construction projects, they are underway. I mean, literally, you could have been to a point where there was a hole in the roof swapping an HVAC unit out, where the rubber meets the road. I mean, we're to that point. So as far as a legal remedy, I do feel like they will. I've met Secretary McMahon, and I will tell you, she was very personable, very, very nice lady. I actually gave her a MDE lapel pin. She put it on her jacket, like very personable. So I do think that she does have some level of understanding as to the I guess irritation would be the right word. Of what's going on right now. So
all right. So the answer to part one is that's an AG's decision as to whether or not legal action is pursued against the federal government, which is a big deal, and it certainly doesn't speed the process up. If this money remains frozen or goes away, I know what you said a second ago about, you don't want taxpayers in Mississippi to have to foot the bill for it, which they kind of already are doing, at least in part, with the federal money. Does it then fall to the legislature to say, hey, we're going to allocate funds so these projects can finish? Does it fall on the school districts to find the money themselves, whether it's through like a bond issue, a local referendum? What happens then?
So worst case, worst case scenario, there's zero additional dollars that come in and districts have to fill the void. That's worst case scenario.
Okay.
Because here at the department, we had reimbursed to districts because federal funding is on a reimbursement model. So the districts spend, they send us the bill, right? And then we we provide to the districts, and then we get reimbursed from the federal government. We're still holding the bag on about $35 million that we have expended to districts with the with the knowledge of we were assured
you're going to be reimbursed for that money.
Yeah, and we're not. We have not, because it's one of those things to where it's much larger. There was some funds that were running through our governor's office, our funds that were grants that were being handled through the department, and then that were also going to districts, and then also the district ESSER funds. So it was like three different parts,
money,
if you will. Those were the yes, sir. That would be the best way to put it. So we're sitting here we've expended about $35 million.
Last
we don't
thing
have.
for
There's
you.
not like some pot of money to pay.
Sure.
There's no pot of money, right?
Yeah.
So.
Last thing for you, only 30 seconds left. Are these projects that could have been requested earlier and started earlier? I know you talked about construction delays and some of those things. Or is this stuff where districts represented, hey, this program's out there, we better take advantage of it before it goes away?
No, these projects have been underway for quite some time. Like, for example, large-scale HVAC projects, where the lead time might have been like 2 months to get these units, it turned into 2 years. So that's why I said earlier, it's just it's a tough deal, but we've got to get this thing remedied because the grace period for our contractors is running out very quickly.
Sure. Lance, really appreciate your time. We're going to keep an eye on this issue. Always good to visit with you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Dr. Lance Evans, State Superintendent of Education. This is Mornings with Richard Cross. Lars is next.
Get your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
8 o'clock hour, good morning to you. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. You can always be a part of the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. C Spire, inspired by you. I know on a daily basis I say things that make me sound like an idiot. Today, at the top of that list, saying that the running of the bulls happened in Barcelona. I know it's in Pamplona. I am well aware of that. And yet, Lance, I'm blaming that on you. I think you said Barcelona.
Yeah, I said my sister lived in Barcelona.
I know.
It might have, the transitive property.
In Pamplona. Let's stay on the guest line. Lars Larson joins us now. He is a nationally syndicated radio show host. He engaged a marketing firm and spent millions of dollars to come up with the name of his radio program. It is The Lars Larson Show. You can hear it right here on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Lars, always appreciate your time and enjoy the visits. I would like to start here this morning, if we could. We just finished up a conversation with the State Superintendent of Education in Mississippi. Mississippi, like a lot of states, has had funding that is frozen that was coming from the Federal Department of Education, about $137 million, and it's left some districts in limbo. So this is more a conversation about DOGE. We know that there is waste. We know that there is inefficiency, but we also know that there's money that has been promised to states for projects that are ongoing. In a lot of ways, there's a ready, fire, aim approach that is happening with DOGE. Is it okay to approach it that way and then clean up the messes as they happen? Or should there be a more organized, systematic approach to the way we are trying to eliminate fraud and waste and abuse?
Richard, it's great to be with you, but I'll tell you, I understand it would be nice to take that steady, careful approach and say, let's line out all the cuts, we'll figure out what they are, and then we'll implement them slowly over time. You know what? That doesn't work. It doesn't work with government, and I can tell you why. because usually when you take that longer approach, it never gets done. What they've done is something, and I'll compare it to this way. Before they kicked me out of television because I have a face for radio, we had the engineers decided at one point that we had too many computer ports open. Now, don't ask me what ports are, but it was the way that we, would hook in from the field. And you know what their solution was? They turned all of them off, and then they waited for the phone calls. And when people said, hey, I need that port, they would turn that one back on. Now, that's a blunt force approach, but it does work. And let me tell you why it's especially applicable, I think, to education. I'm glad you brought up education. There are a lot of people, sad to say, who don't know how schools get paid for. And that's a sad thing, because we spend more on schools than every other civilized country on the planet. There is no other country that spends more per student per year than the United States. So how much of that money comes from Washington, D.C.? In the biggest districts, it's usually a maximum of 10%. And in the smaller districts, they get less because the big districts are politically important, so they get more, and the smaller districts get less, which is not the right way to allocate money anyway. But having said that, you ask me, how many families in Mississippi, how many businesses in Mississippi have over, say, the last 20 years had to take a 10% reduction? And they survived it. They said, well, we're going to tighten up our belt. We may lose a person or two at a business, but we're going to tighten up our belt. These school districts are saying the sky is falling. We won't be able to educate your kids. You're telling me that you can't absorb a 10% cut. And the other problem is that most of that money was allocated from the federal government with giant puppet strings attached to it, which means that, they said to the district, you can have this money, but you have to push DEI or CRT or a bunch of other really damaging, dangerous philosophies or ideologies. And so when they cut that federal education money and a district loses 10%, it was usually allocated to something specific. The only place I'd make an exception to that is there is some money for special needs kids who have disabilities of one kind or another. God bless them, but you've got to take care of those kids. But I think most of the districts, if you said to them, could you survive a 10% reduction in funding? And let's be real, Richard, this is borrowed money. Remember, our federal government is spending $6 trillion and only takes in $4 trillion. That's a $2 trillion deficit. We are rapidly seeing the point where America may not be able to come back from the debt load we've got. Just to make it real for people, let's see, the math is every single day when you wake up, the first $3 billion that the government spends is spent to pay the interest on the debt, not the debt itself, just the interest. $3 billion a day, $1 trillion a year is spent on that. And that number is going to go up. And as interest rates stay high, it gets worse. So I know that's a long answer. But number one, you don't want those strings from Washington, D.C. They will ask Mississippi, they will demand that Mississippi do things that Mississippians would not have signed off on, ugly things to your kids. Number two, the district can survive that kind of reduction. And frankly, I think schools are better when they are run locally and funded locally. And the minute Uncle Sam says, I've got some money for you, expect it to come with some demands attached to it. And Americans don't need that.
I agree with almost everything that you're saying, and I've talked with local district people where I live, and they've said, yeah, I mean, in terms of federal money, it's somewhere between 3% and 6% that we get, and so I think they can survive on that. One of the issues, though, specifically was okay. There are these funds that are in place, and they're still related to COVID-19, which feels like, why are we still doing that as part of the conversation? But if a school district applied for a specific program and it pertained to a construction project and they're in the middle of that, should the federal government be obligated to pay what they said they would pay to finish a project?
I would say that you finish the project with local funds. I mean, if the money is being cut off, the obvious solution is you're in the middle of it, you're obligated, you've signed a contract, you owe the money one way or the other. Yeah. And if the federal government is paying for a portion of it, can the district pick up that portion? And will that hurt the kids to bring the money over there? I got to tell you something. Governments are constantly saying, we don't have the money. And you say, but you're sitting on a pile of, but that's already allocated to other things. And then the minute they actually want to do something, they'll say, wow, we found a magic way, for example, to shift Medicaid money. And if you ask most people, what does Medicaid money get spent on? Well, it's spent on health insurance for the poor. Oh, how did it get shifted over to provide housing for illegal aliens over the last 4 years? You say, well, that was some of that budget magic they do, where when they don't want to do something, they'll tell you, we're not allowed to do it. It may look like we're sitting on a pile of cash, but every single dollar of it is already spoken for. And then the minute they do want to do something, they say, we can magically move this money over here and that money over there. And so it's amazing how the magic only works when the folks in charge want to do something. Remember that during both COVID and during the invasion of illegal aliens for the last 4 years, the federal and state governments found wonderful ways to shift money 6 ways from Sunday. And so it puts the lie to the idea that they say, well, I'm sorry, we can't spend that money on that very urgently needed need because it was already dedicated by, say, the Mississippi legislature or by the folks on Capitol Hill. I would call the lie on that one.
Does the same line of thinking apply to the tariff conversation? We know that is chaotic, right? I mean, it's okay, tariffs on everybody. No, we're going to back off on these certain sectors. Well, these countries get a 90-day break. Well, China's 125% and all of those things. Is the whole ready, fire, aim, is it the same as you were saying a second ago? If you try and do it in a systematic way where you roll it over time, it never gets done. So you just put it in place and then fix it as you need to, case by case?
I think some of that is true, and some of the chaos is, I think, by design. I think Donald Trump knows what he's doing when he's cutting deals and negotiating. And frankly, how many times have you ever, I'll take a simple example. In terms of negotiating things that you and I have done, Richard, you walk onto a car lot, you say, yeah, I'm just looking around. The guy comes out and says, let me show you, what are you looking for? And you tell him, I'm looking for a pickup truck. He says, I got this one right here. It's only $55,000. I say, a lot more than I was planning on spending. So yeah, I'll see you later. And you start to walk off. And he says, oh, no, hold on, come on back. Let me tell you about this truck, and I think we can work on that number. You have to be ready to walk away at any time. Now, that's one kind of negotiating. What do you do when China and other countries have been ripping off, and I think Trump is accurate when he says ripping off the United States? And let me tell you where I think the proof of that is. If we had a truly equitable, I almost hate using that word because the liberals have been misusing it lately, but if you had an equitable deal, say there are two stores in Mississippi that buy products and services from each other, and one says, we're going to sell to you at wholesale. And the other one says, that's great, I'm going to sell to you at retail. And the guy who's selling at wholesale says, why am I giving you a wholesale deal when you're getting, full retail? And that's not equitable. So if the United States says to China, why are our products tariffed so heavily going into your country and your products are not tariffed heavily coming into ours, let's get that equaled up. And I think Trump eventually wants to get to zero tariffs. And maybe we never will. There may be some special circumstances where zero tariffs doesn't work. But how do you get there? And you say, well, you sit down and negotiate. I got to tell you something, Richard. Every single worker, and I would especially point out union workers. I'm not a big fan of unions, but I don't want to be in a union. But if somebody wants to be in a union, that's fine. How do they negotiate with the boss? They say to the boss, we all need raises. And the boss says, yeah, I don't have a lot of money, so I can't give you raises. And the union says, well, we're going to have to get raises. You could sit there and talk forever. But at the point where the union or the individual worker says, boss, if I don't get a raise, I'm going to have to go down the road.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought, Lars. We're going to pick this up in just a couple of minutes. Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the Venable.
Good morning, everybody. Time to wake up.
Time to shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Richard on the radio, praying for another black domino.
The call and the coffee. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm, SuperTalk TV, of course on your SuperTalk Mississippi radio stations covering the entire Magnolia State. Always enjoy our visits with Lars Larson, host of the Lars Larson Show. You can hear that starting at 6 p.m. weeknights here on SuperTalk Mississippi. You were making a point about union workers in negotiation, but that's a point that really goes across all negotiations. There is nothing more liberating if you are engaged in a real estate transaction when you get to the point that you are willing to say no and you are willing to walk away. I mean, it's the greatest negotiating tool that exists. You're like, no. Well, but no. The answer is no, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, maybe we can get a deal done.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Everybody has done it at some level. Even the youngest worker out there who's been working for 6 months for somebody who promised him a raise or her a raise. And at some point he says, hey, boss, if I don't get a raise, I got to go. If you're not willing to walk out the door, then you have already lost the negotiation. So let me suggest, how do I know that the United States has been getting screwed in these deals? And they say, well, Lars, you're a Trump guy, so you just agree with anything the president says. And I said, no, think about this. Have any of these countries come out and said to the world, hey, look at this. This is the deal we've currently got with the U.S., and the U.S. is being unreasonable. We already have equitable trade. None of them, not one of them is saying that. Do you think the Democrats and the media would be happy to say, well, here's the very equitable trade arrangement we have with China. They're being fair to us. We're being fair to them. It's equitable. Nobody's saying that because everybody knows it's not equitable. Now, I will tell you, Richard, if you've ever got one of those deals where it's all coming your way and you're getting 70 and the other guy is getting 30, who would blame you for saying, yeah, we'd like to continue with the current system. We like 70-30. And then when somebody says, can we sit down and talk about 50-50? And you say, we can talk about it all you want, but as long as we're getting 70-30, we're not going to be really willing to change. And then like the worker or the union that says the boss, if it don't change, we're going out the door. And as you said, if you've got the guts to walk out the door for real, then you can actually negotiate. Otherwise, you're not going to find it much of a negotiation. The boss will nod sagely and say, I've heard all your concerns. You can't pay your bills and your work, your skills and talents are worth more, but I'm not going to pay you more. And when you don't walk out the door, guess who wins? The boss.
I was intrigued this morning when I saw the Q1 numbers for Tesla. 128,000, give or take, Teslas sold in the United States in Q1. That is 10 times more. That is more than the next 10 electric vehicle manufacturers combined. For all the people that were selling their Teslas and getting rid of them and making a statement, there seem to be a lot of people that are still buying them. I'm not an electric vehicle guy. I got friends who are.
Neither am I. My pickup truck runs on gasoline, and I'm glad for my V8.
Amen and amen. But to me, Tesla is an interesting test case for this manufacturing in America conversation. We're talking about bringing companies back to the United States. And I say, well, you can't do it. It's too expensive. And yet the sticker price on a Tesla is pretty comparable to the sticker price on a GMC or a Chevrolet or a Ford.
Well, in comparable cars, because the difference has been, in the last couple of years, has been maybe 10 grand difference. And that's a big difference. Somebody walks onto a lot and says, I'd like to look at one of those new electric cars, whether it's a Tesla or some other kind of car. And the dealer says, yeah, here's this car. And the comparables, and if you said, show me the comparable size gasoline car, it's going to be cheaper. And not only that, but, the fueling mechanism is still problematic. I mean, to use complicated words for it, because think about this. I drove down to the Hoover Institution last week for our broadcast, which we do every year from the Hoover Institution. It's about 800 miles. And I never had to sit there and plan out my trip saying, I know I have to go this far and then my vehicle's going to be out of electricity and I'll need to stop for at least an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours. And then I can travel on another couple of hundred miles and stop again and map out that there are actually chargers. I just got in the pick and I drove my SUV and I took my producer with me and God bless him. And we just thought, okay, when the tank starts to get down to about a quarter, you look for the next exit. Unless you're in, there are some rural areas in my region where it says 70 miles to next services, and you have to pay attention to that. But other than that, you can pretty much get off wherever you want and refuel. AAA says the average refueling time for a gasoline or diesel car is 7 minutes. Now, Do you know of an electric car that will recharge even in 1 hour? There are some fast chargers, if you can find them, if your car works with them, and they're more expensive, that will charge your car an hour, hour and a half. Now imagine this. If I pull up at the pumps and there are two cars ahead of me, I know the most they're probably going to take is 7 minutes each. So I might have to wait 15 minutes to pull up the pumps, and I'll be done in another 5 or 6 minutes after that. With an electric car, you start doing the math. You say, honey, you better go get lunch because I'm going to be sitting here for hours.
Yeah, I mean, there certainly is an efficiency thing, and, what is your time worth? And that, I mean, I guess it depends if you're a long traveler or you're a short commuter. Maybe that does make sense. Visiting with Lars Larson.
I mean, Richard, when I did the drive back I did this drive down in 2 days, almost 800 miles. Did the drive back. I asked my producer, I said, are you okay to do the whole 8 or 785 in 1 day? He said, sure. We left at 7 a.m. I walked in my front door after dropping off my producer at 7 o'clock at night, 12 hours. You'd have never done that with an electric vehicle. So they are practical and they make sense for some people, and they are completely impractical for everybody else.
How much importance do you place on the announcement from NVIDIA yesterday, the $500 billion...
About manufacturing in America?
Yeah,
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that's what I'm getting at. Whether or not we're talking about manufacturing Teslas or we're talking about supercomputing chips or supercomputers or AI technology going forward, this idea that it can't be done in the United States because it's too expensive, we're seeing examples where it is done and they're figuring out a way to make it work.
Well, let me put it this way. America created the integrated circuit. We pioneered that technology. Now, there are a lot of other companies like Taiwan Semiconductor that make them too. Intel, which is their biggest location, is about 15 miles that way from me, and they employ about 5,000 people. They're a huge employer, and they make 75% of the integrated circuit chips that are made in the United States. And yet the country that pioneered the technology of integrated circuits only makes 10% of the world's ICs. Now, why is that? Shouldn't we be making a lot of them? Now, they are technologically complicated, but they do employ people at very high rates of pay in these fabs. We ought to have fabs all over the place. So when I saw the NVIDIA announcement, I thought, this is great. They're going to make these things here. And why not?
Certainly.
Do you want to make chips in a third world country?
Yeah, let's maybe try and get away from that. Just a couple of minutes left with Lars Larson. We talked about this yesterday. I'm sure you've talked about it as well. The Pentagon taking over, Roosevelt Ranch, the federal lands that border 3 states along the southern border. Is there any reason to be concerned about this, or is this a good use of federal lands?
I think that's a decent use of federal lands. I've got my own complaints about the fact that we have almost 200 million acres of forests and we don't cut much in the way of trees. We don't cut nearly what we should. But yeah, I think the announcement from the Pentagon's a good idea. I mean, and I'm going to go with it for now unless I hear otherwise.
Yeah. Certainly a lot going on. Is there a topic that for you right now is the flashing neon light at the top? It's like, this matters more than anything else we're talking about right now.
No, I think all of the things that are being done by President Trump, and he's moving at lightning speed, and I applaud him for that, because usually government works at the speed of a glacier, and that's sad. There is one, I'll tell you what, I'll throw one important one out there, but it's more not so much on President Trump, but on Capitol Hill. The Trump tax cuts are so significant to every single person listening to your show. And why? Because the minute they go away, the child care tax credit drops in half, and the standard deduction, I'm not a tax guy, I have somebody else do my taxes, and I have since I was 18 years old, but the standard deduction for a couple was $12,000. When the Trump tax cuts came in, that doubled to $25,000. That means you don't pay taxes on the first $25,000 you make. Right. The minute they evaporate at the end of this year, it goes right back to 12, and everybody listening to this show is going to be paying an average of 20% on another $12,000. Do the math. You're out about $2,500 right there, even if the child care tax credit doesn't touch you. And why the Republicans have not automatically said, let's just get this thing made permanent in 2017. They're playing chicken with the end of the year deadline, and that's a dumb thing to do.
Lars Larson, you can hear him from 6 until 9 right here on Super Talk Mississippi weekday nights. Always appreciate the time. Good visiting with you, my friend.
It is my pleasure, Richard. Thank you.
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. Half an hour left with you on this beautiful Tuesday in the Magnolia State. Quick time out. We're back with you right after this.
Like cherry blossoms blooming in the mountain in the early spring. As we walked by the river and she softly took hold of my hand. That's when I fell deep in love with the girl made in Japan.
Start your day right.
Good morning, America, how are you?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Well, I'm standing all alone by the river of my home, thinking about the days I've left behind. All the years I roam, not a nickel can I show, and the river helps to ease my worried mind.
Good to be with you on this Tuesday morning as you get your day going and you head out, whether it's to work or to school or maybe getting kids to school or, I don't know, maybe you've got the day off and you're headed to the golf course. We hope you have a wonderful day and appreciate you being part of the conversation here on Mornings with Richard Cross. Thanks for making us part of your day. I got some stuff that is coming up this week on Super Talk Mississippi on Wednesday. Middays with Gerard Gibbert will be at the grand opening of the new Ace Bolt and Screw location in Gluckstadt, Madison County's newest commercial industrial superstore. Ace Bolt and Screw features the brands the professionals expect to find. Brands like DeWalt, Milwaukee, Gear Wrench, Klein, Diablo, and more. When you're looking to get the right tool to get the job done, look no further than Ace Bolt and Screw with locations in Jackson, Tupelo, Richland, Greenwood, and now in Gluckstadt. Again, middays with Gerard Gibbert. Tomorrow we'll be at the grand opening of the new Ace Bolt and Screw in Gluckstadt. Cool stores. Really, really cool stores. We did. We were in Greenwood a couple of years ago for the opening there. It was on Sports Talk Mississippi, and a lot of fun. A lot of cool stuff. It's like a candy store for big kids.
My favorite is the big, bolts and nuts that go on like the light poles.
Yes.
It's like big around as your arm. And the nut on it is huge.
Can somebody help me carry this to the cash register?
Yeah, how do you get 6 of these out of here? Now, those things are awesome. You look at it like, oh my goodness, man. Yeah. But yeah, seeing that kind of stuff. I love going into places like that. I'll spend so much time and I'll leave and I'll be like, I didn't buy anything, but I learned everything.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay.
And you put a few things on your wish list.
Then I got to go back. Yeah, then you think about it. And you're like, why did I leave without buying that?
And on Thursday, Mornings with Richard Cross, will be at the Jackson Convention Complex for the Mississippi Economic Council's annual meeting. You'll hear about what's being done to keep Mississippi's economy growing. For details about being a sponsor or to register to attend the event, go to the Mississippi Economic Council's website, mec.ms. mec.ms. All of your messages are coming in on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Your team has you covered on the field. C Spire has you covered everywhere else with the best technology for home, work, and on the go. Backed by local 24/7 customer support. Learn more at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. We were talking about the electric vehicles and charging and the efficiency when traveling, or lack thereof. It was good with Lars on. Somebody said, naysayer here, I can charge on a fast charger in 25 minutes. I said, well, is that a full charge, and how readily available are the fast chargers? This listener is in Corinth, says, yeah, we got a couple of them in Corinth, and I've got a Kia Soul electric vehicle. Said it might not work for everyone, but it does for me. Granted, if we take long trips, we use the gas burner, but locally, my EV is all I need. And maybe that's the point in this, right? I mean, it's like, okay, what's your driving pattern? What is your usage? Electric vehicle would not work for me on a long-term basis because I drive a lot and a lot of long distances. And so I'd have to factor in extra time to stop to charge along the way and kill some time and then pick up the trip and carry on. But, if, I don't know, let's say you live in Houston, Mississippi, and you work in Tupelo, and your commute is 30 minutes or 45 minutes each way, and you got a charging station at your home, maybe that works perfectly, and you get the efficiency that you need, and you're not having to stop at gas stations, maybe it works. But, if you're regularly making 3, 4, 5, 6 hour drives, then probably not as efficient. Darren in Jackson, boy, he asks an interesting question. Can't they develop something like a large alternator or generator that will charge the batteries as you drive? You could use the turning of the tires to generate it.
Just had a great conversation about this.
Yeah, and I mean, though it's not 100% electric, it's kind of what hybrid vehicles are.
Well, and you're not seeing it fully developed yet. I mean, you're using it in braking tech. As you slow down, there is a dynamo type system, and I have more of the specifics that I could share. Got it from SpaceX, but was asking some questions like regarding that technology, and a very informative conversation back and forth. And I was asking about ramjet tech as well, like, using airflow, and that wouldn't work in cars, not enough airflow. But with the dynamo system to help the batteries charge or stay charged for longer distances, yes, that is being used in some vehicles. It's not widely developed or perfected to milk all of the energy out of it, the electricity, which you got to convert, basic physical into electrical energy. So, it's a fascinating concept that as we get better at this, hopefully, yes, you will get much increased battery life, or at least extended as you travel, because you would have less drain on the battery because it's continuously charging it. You wouldn't create as much energy from the spinning of the tire, but you're trying to convert that energy into electrical energy, which you'll have some loss there. So, but yeah, it will eventually help. And maybe we'll get to the point where it's, you're getting, 500, 600, 700, maybe more, who knows, out of a straight battery rather than a hybrid.
What is the cost involved in charging an electric vehicle, whether on the road or at home? It varies. I mean, right, there is an increase in your home electrical bill if you're using a charging port that you have installed in your home. It is probably less than the amount you spend on gasoline if you're filling up a vehicle that's got a V6 or a V8 in it, and you're getting somewhere between 15 and 25 miles a gallon. My guess is you probably save a little bit of money there, but you're going to have more expensive upfront cost with it. And then it depends on the charging station, right? I mean, there are charging stations where you have to swipe a credit card for, an hour or, however much charge time or however much energy you use. And I don't know what those rates are. And then there's some, like, you stay at a hotel that has got parking spaces that have got chargers in it, or you're in a parking garage with a parking space that's got a charger in it. And, that's part of the one of the perks or one of the benefits of staying at that particular place or parking in that particular place. You seem to get better parking spots also. But, look, I'm not anti-battery powered at all. I think there are some people that are buying electric vehicles for the efficiency and the cost savings in the long run. There's some people that are buying those because they think it's doing more for the environment than driving a vehicle that's gas powered. But then you've also got some people who are buying electric vehicles for performance. I had a buddy that did one of those driving schools not too long ago, and he was driving an electric Porsche. This was on a track situation, and said when you floored it, the acceleration was so much that it threw your head back against the headrest. And there are people that like that, like fast cars. In the same way people have liked muscle cars for decades and decades because of the performance they deliver. There are people that buy electric cars because of the performance that they deliver. So, somebody says, isn't there a fee for an electric vehicle when you get a tag? Yeah. Yeah, it is. And that goes to the, we talked about that during the legislative session when we were talking about the the gas tax, the excise tax, and all the debate that goes into that. Thomas says, as of now, hybrid is the best option if you're wanting to be a greenie. Yeah, I mean, depending on the hybrid vehicle you're buying, it gives you better fuel economy, right? Your miles per gallon goes up because your engine is not doing all of the work; it's doing part of the work. And you've got those in full-size pickup trucks and SUVs. I know Ford, what they rolled out was the EcoBoost engine. I was with a friend this past week whose dad is driving a Hyundai Santa Fe hybrid. And it was a nice vehicle. Not necessarily what I want to drive on a day-to-day basis. But, Lance, it's so quiet when you crank it that the car sings to you.
Oh,
like
when those things, when they come by, it's like a golf cart.
Yeah, but I mean, like when it's just sitting there, not even moving, like you crank it and you're getting ready to put it in reverse to back out of the garage or back out of the driveway. It has like a little sing-songy tune that it plays because it's so quiet that you don't realize there's a cranked vehicle there.
Yeah.
It's like a warning system for people around. So, Mo says, we burn about 18 gallons a week in a vehicle that is paid for. No amount of savings will convince me to spend $60,000 plus on an electric car. Also, electric is a different type of torque versus combustion. I guess that's a more technical way than what I said of it throws your head against the headrest. The acceleration for electric vehicles is insane. It's off the charts. Talked about the Department of Education freezing $137 million that was allocated for Mississippi. How about the federal government freezing over $2 billion that was allocated toward Harvard? I'll give you that story next.
From the
Good morning. Good morning to you there.
Okay, up and at 'em. Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
All this talk about vehicles made me think about my friends at Belk Ford and Oxford Toyota. They're located on Highway 6 West in Oxford. Great selection on the lot right now. Whether you're looking for a larger vehicle like an Expedition, maybe you want the number one selling truck in America for coming up on 5 decades, the Ford F-150. Or perhaps you're in the market for a Toyota vehicle, whether it's an award-winning Camry that, you want to talk about a vehicle that runs forever, or a Toyota 4Runner, or a Tundra, or that new Land Cruiser. They got you covered at Belk Ford and Oxford Toyota. Family-owned business that has been in the automobile industry for over a century. They've done it at different locations and with some different brands along the way, but Ford and Toyota are not going anywhere at Belk Ford. You can stop by and visit with somebody on their sales team, or you can give them a call or check out their website, belkford.net, oxfordtoyota.com. They're going to take care of you. They're going to help you find the best financing rates that are available, no pushy sales tactics. They're going to help you get into the vehicle that you want at a price that you can afford and that makes the most sense for you. Tell them you heard about it on the radio on SuperTalk Mississippi on Mornings with Richard Cross. Belk Ford, Oxford Toyota, Highway 6 West in Oxford. Doesn't matter, though, where you live in the state. Reach out. They'd love for the chance to help you out and earn your business. So, have you seen the update from Harvard? Harvard came out with a statement where they are standing firm. They will not be kowtowing. They will not be acquiescing to the wishes of the Donald Trump administration, and their stand on principle may very well come at a cost. Harvard said yesterday that it would resist the Trump administration's demands to change the governance structure over campus anti-Semitism concerns, saying that the government is overstepping its authority. That is Harvard's right to do so. That is Harvard's right to say so. It's also the government's right to announce a $2.26 billion freeze over Harvard's multi-year grants and contracts. The exchange escalates the fight between the nation's wealthiest university and the federal government, which had already threatened to withhold nearly $9 billion in grants and contracts from the school and its affiliated hospitals. Now, the president of Harvard, Alan Garber, said in a letter to the school's community, the university will not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights, First Amendment rights. The Trump administration said that the school's response, quote, reinforces the troubling entitlement mindset that is endemic in our nation's most prestigious universities and colleges, that federal investment does not come with the responsibility to uphold civil rights laws. This is a match between two pretty powerful entities. A whizzing match, if you will. The Trump administration task force on anti-Semitism wrote the school earlier this month asking them to take 9 actions that, quote, they regard as necessary for Harvard's continued financial relationship with the United States government. It's almost like you could get to a point where you say, you are a private institution, and you can use private money to run your institution the way that you see fit. There will be no federal allocation of dollars for you if you are going to allow an environment that not only gives the opportunity, but in some cases encourages anti-Semitism. And in some cases, violence on campus. And disruption for the flow of education the way that it's supposed to. You remember the Trump administration and Columbia got into this a little bit ago, and Columbia's, it's been around for a long time. They got plenty of money at Columbia, but not as much as Harvard has. And in an attempt to restore $400 million in funding cuts, Columbia agreed to some of the federal government's demands. So they acquiesced. Harvard basically said, our checkbook is big enough, we'll do what we want to do. And if we lose the money, we lose the money. And I think that's okay. I don't love that you're allowing an environment to continue on your campus where anti-Semitism is prevalent. Somebody says that the federal government told them they had to install Trump-approved staff to facilitate his vision. That itself was a non-starter. I don't know that it was that specific. With the Columbia story, there was like almost a conservatorship. They weren't going to allow some of the departments to continue to be run the way that they were running. We'll see where this story goes. It's an interesting one. Oh, academia. Prestigious academia in America. Interesting topic. Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday morning. We're back with you tomorrow, just after 6 a.m. For Lance, I'm Richard. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.